Hello everyone and welcome to yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host, Johnny, delighted to be here. I hope you've had amazing weeks and that they're gonna get even better. Let me know in the chat what you're up to, what you're working with, what are your plans? Are you having fun this weekend? Let me know everything. What we will be doing is chugging along with our trivia train app. It's a SvelteKit app that integrates with ChatGPT to make a more fun type of game show available. Usually when I see these apps, they have a multiple choice format like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which is understandable. It's much easier to say, this is the question, here's 4 answers, click one of them is correct, did you get it correct or not? But it's harder to do it pub quiz trivia style, where there is a question and you need to write down what the answer could be, and then assess, was it correct, was it not correct? Sometimes you use the first name of a person asked for, and that should pass. Sometimes you want the full name. Sometimes you need to list one person, like name one character from Friends or one of the main cast, and one of these 6 people is going to be a valid answer. And that is quite a lot of work to prepare or programmatically get ahead of. And a valid use of LLMs and AI, I think, is something exactly like this. And we'll go through what we've done so far. We've had a couple streams done. The first one, we focused on deployment. The second one, the last one, was all about the actual functionality. How do you engage with the app itself? And I did get carried away doing a bit of refactoring yesterday, preparing for this stream, which I am going to talk about. But the important thing is that you can go to trivia-train.fly.dev and completely free, you can play without having an account, which would also be free. By the way, you have like various login options, which you can go through and then you can play, but it makes no difference. So on the last stream, we needed you to be logged in order to play. Now we've done away with this limitation. You can do an anonymous play and have fun without needing to sign up, which is free, but it's an extra step. So maybe you just want to see how the game works. Anyway, the question we were working with last time, and I will focus now. What we will be doing today, we'll be doing some CMS style functionality. We'll be doing CRUD operations in order to be able to easily create a quiz instead of me running SQL queries and sitting in the database every time. People often ask me about which CMS is the best, which one is specifically the best to integrate with Svelte. I have some opinions, but very often for your projects and clients, maybe you don't even need a CMS. Maybe all you need is to do some basic CRUD operations, and that's all you need. Maybe for your project, you can have an interface like the one we're going to create, or pass it along to your client, and that's going to be enough. You don't need to integrate with like Sanity or Contentful or whatever else, which are good projects, but integration is always more work. So maybe this would be enough for you. If you're hoping to create the New York Times and you need many journalists writing articles at the same time, at that point you will need a CMS. So we'll go over those use cases. But if your use case is more similar to this, then this may be enough for you. So that's what we'll do today. We'll be adding some animations and flair, maybe confetti, when you get a question right or you finish the quiz, which should be fun. But I think most people will be excited for the SMS style functionality, CMS style functionality, which we have shown in the past. So it's going to be CRUD with SvelteKit and Drizzle, the ORM, which connects to a Turso database. We've gone through something like this before. We'll go through it again to reestablish, revalidate our learnings and see what else we've learned since the last time we've done it. So let me zoom in to the desktop view here. Let me collect some honey, and let's try to go through the quiz together and see how it looks like now. So last time we only had this question, the Pentagon question, and the thing to clarify again why I think this is cool is in the database I have 10 questions for a single quiz, which I've brought here. Only one is visible, but each question has an expected answer, has the actual answer, which in this case is 5. And if I were to exactly type in 5, then that would immediately be correct. But lots of people would write down 5, type it out like this, F-I-V-E. And that should also be accepted ideally if you're doing a pub quiz and you're putting in you were saying 5, you put down 5 on your seat, then that would also be accepted. But I hadn't accounted for that while I was writing a question. So how do we get around that? If someone's been cheeky and is using the emoji 5 as well, that's also be accepted. People can speak in unexpected ways, and for accessibility as well, it is important to be able to understand the meaning. What did the person want to say here, while not being too lenient, I suppose, because it is a quiz, you should get it right. We just want the feeling of a fair quiz. And that's where we go into the ChatGPT integration, the LLM integration. If the user's answer is not exactly correct, or is not exactly the one we were expecting, then we ask ChatGPT, and we have a prompt to say, this is the question for this trivia question, this is the prompt, and this is the user's answer, should it be accepted, return to me is correct or not. And if we've done that query before, if we ran that query before, we also cast it because OpenAI calls cost more than database calls. And long story short, does this still work? We've proven that the logging functionality works, which makes no difference. But will 5 work here? It should. Did not actually the actual presenter. I think so. Oh, we'll need to run locally. Whoops. Well, it does happen sometimes. I wonder why. They ran out of OpenAI credits. We'll find out soon enough. It could be that I did make some changes. I did say that we're using cookies now. So who knows? Who knows if that plays a part? But the server crashed, so maybe not. All right, so answering 5 worked. We have 49 as well. How much is 7 to the power of 2? So 7 times 7 is 49. That's also accepted. What's the name of the flower girl protagonist of Final Fantasy VII? And when it's sent, do they know that? That's the question. And the official answer is Aerith. But if you've played Final Fantasy VII, I guess, the name is Aerith. So which one did I put in the database? Who knows? I did put Aerith, which has been corrected in Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, and in the films, I suppose. But let's try what maybe most gamers from the PlayStation era, like myself, would know the flower girl from Final Fantasy VII as, and see. All right, worked. So I'm gonna blame some cookie craziness for that. This site is live, so try it out yourself and let me know if you get this weird error that we got. So, Aerith, half human, half which fantasy race is the question here. Does anybody know that? I know because I wrote the test that it's etc. I didn't remember that by heart. Let's say it's Central. Let's see if ChatGPT thinks that that is correct or not. No, so is not lenient enough to account for the spelling mistake here. Etc. is Central. Which city hosts the 2024 Summer Olympics? Paris. What happens if I say Paris, France? Is a question I have. Correct. So that's amazing. That's something that, just came to me as well. And I would never have been able to predict when I was writing the question that someone may say Paris, France. And of course, I would want to allow this because it clarifies it's not like Paris, US. I'm sure the States have tons of, a few Paris towns, a few towns called Paris. In the Olympics, how many players are in a single beach volleyball team? The answer is 2 per side. Correct. In JavaScript, map, reduce, and filter are common array methods. Which one can return a value that is not an array? So I've tried to do a few different types of groups of questions. So we had the math, we had the gaming, we had the sports, and we have a couple of JavaScript questions here. Anyone want to guess? Or I guess, once again, you can go and play yourself if you'd like. So the answer is map, reduce, filter. Which one doesn't always return an array? You can make it return something else. And the answer is reduce. Map is run on an array, always returns an array. Filter, you can write an array, always return an array. Reduce, you can return a string, a number, an object, anything you want. If you, the scenario here, you type a URL in the browser and press enter. Which HTTP verb is used? So if I go to johnnyfy.com/premium, where you can get all of this code with a subscription, when I press enter here, what's the HTTP verb used? And the answer is get. It's going to be a get request by the browser. Correct? So no loading indicators, no animations when this is playing, no conformity. Those are things that we may want to improve. Greece's flag has two colors. White. Is white a color? I don't know, a bit too philosophical for me. That's why I have it as the white here. What's the other one? The other one is blue. Which continent has the most countries? And I believe that's the last question as well. Maybe we could say like question out of one out of however many, but maybe fun, maybe not. I don't know if that's better advice. And the continent with most countries is Africa. And another thing I was thinking about as well is that every answer could have like a fun trivia, like tidbit, something that you get right after you answer correctly or incorrectly. So it will tell you, oh, Africa at this moment has this many recognized countries, which would be fun. You learn something extra besides the answer to this specific question. You learn a fun fact. All right, we completed this trivia journey. Get off the drain. And that's it for here's where we are at now demo. The idea for today, once again, is instead of me having to run an SQL query or seed all of these questions and answers through code and a script, I should have an interface somewhere in the app where I can easily create a quiz, edit a quiz, and delete a quiz. That's what I think should happen. And we have other functionality that we want to go over, like showing high score, maybe persisting high scores somewhere. Maybe if you have an account, maybe you can persist your high score. If not, you cannot. Maybe that's something extra for people who have free accounts. Maybe you can only create quizzes if you have an account. But, you know, this is going to be like a free project. So it's not like, oh, I need to drive the upsells or anything like that. But I do think it's realistic enough to make it interesting, to show like the real world value, take the learnings here and apply to other apps that you may want to create. Right, so we did the live demo. I will go over the cookies refactor. I also need to switch on to not disturb. There you go. So live demo done almost straight away. Cookies refactor. You may remember that last time we couldn't go through the whole quiz. And we had an extra table to store the user's answers. We needed the user to be logged in, so we can have a user ID, so we'll be logging their answers. But I figured that it's too much hassle. People don't want to just sign up for a game show app or any other app without seeing it work in real life, unless you have like a wicked, amazing marketing page, which I'm not going to have here. I just want people to share and play and have fun. So I factor this to use cookies, which sometimes can cause some troubles because, for example, some browsers like Safari famously is very hostile. They claim being very privacy conscious about this, but the point is that sometimes it can be very tricky to work with cookies when you're using Safari, iOS Safari, and you may have problems with that. Another limitation with storing state in cookies is there is usually a limit of how big the quickie can be, which is 4 kilobytes. And just going through this quiz of 4 questions gets us to like 3.1 kilobytes. So we're kind of close to that, interestingly enough. And you also have a total limit of how many quickies you're allowed to put in your website, your app in general. Sometimes browsers don't respect these, and you're fine, but it's good to adhere to the standards and not be naughty. Anyway, how did we achieve this? Just go over the server here. I refactored to use a quizzes repo, which implements a few different methods. If we find a quiz quickie, then we parse the quiz quickie to get the quiz back, or else we're fetching the quiz from the database. We're fetching the latest quiz from the database. And then we're setting the quickie, so we only need to do it once. So if the user has visited the page, then they have the quickie state. They'll be able to start from scratch there. If I cannot find a quiz for some reason, I throw the 404 page. Don't need to return this. That's throws. Then, in order to derive what the messages should be, the backend is deriving the messages and a few other things that I'm not using around here. So according to whether the answers in the quickies have guesses, and if they have an incorrect attribute, then I add some messages to this screen. So the assistant, the pub trivia master, I suppose the master of ceremonies, however you want to call them, is the one on the left of the screen. They ask the questions, they tell you they're correct, or they tell you they're incorrect and the actual answer we're looking for is this. Interestingly enough, this Paris one looks like it went a bit off. So this one should have been the incorrect one, and this one the correct one. So some bug there that we'll find out eventually, I'm sure. And this is running against localhost, no? Yes. Oh well. Because this is not the incorrect answer. Anyway, we understand this. This is suspiciously similar to what we had here as well. Did I do like a demo run through and did the exact same thing? On this one, it is correct. Yeah, I'm gonna blame myself. Well, I'm not getting mad. Nice to see you. After a while, my vacation in Asia and mostly South Korea was amazing. Thank you for asking. It was very nice, amazing sights, fun city show. Food was really good, although a lot of fried food. So I'm not sure if I could do like one extra week of that. A lot of beef. The national parks were amazing. Did quite a lot of nice hikes. Visited the demilitarized zone with North Korea as well. I don't think I'll ever see something like that in my life ever again. So nice experiences, and got to experience a little bit of a different culture. Right, so the moment we delete this quickie, you can see that we hit the database again and refresh the questions we have here. Not getting mad, they says, you saw me play Valorant a few days back on Discord. Not inspired by me seeing guns in the demilitarized zone, I have to say. But back in the day, 15 years ago, I was playing a decent amount of Counter-Strike. Maybe 20 years ago, I don't even know. And even in a startup in London, we'd do Friday evenings where we'd play Counter-Strike. I guess it would have been CSGO at that point. Anyway, long story short, I do like the Counter-Strike type of gameplay, and I was wondering, would they ever do like a modern Counter-Strike with powers? And it seems like Valorant is it, so I wanted to give it a try. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I think you really need like the vibes to be good. You really need a team of friends to really enjoy that sort of game. And it's hard to get friends where you can consistently play with. But hey, headshots feel nice. I carried one round. I was critical in losing another round, so I got the whole experience. I may play more. I was excited to try the console beta, which is going around, because I've handed my PC gamer card, sadly, and only do console gaming now. Yeah, I have heard that a lot of those games can be quite toxic, but Valorant may be especially toxic. I don't know. It was fine, but maybe the console thing makes it a bit easier for now. Who knows? Who knows? Right, so we're storing the state in cookies. You don't need to be logged in. We don't persist the answers anywhere. When we actually hit submit, what happens is the form does get submitted as before, but we also get the quiz cookie that we're storing to understand what answer the user is attempting to reply to. And then we query the database to see, all right, this question has this expected answer. If it is exactly correct, then we open the relevant bits. So if it is exactly correct, then with no further ado, we keep going. But if it's not exactly correct, that's where we have a prompt to ask ChatGPT about whether it thinks this answer should count as correct or not. But first, we check the database, because as we said, this database call is much cheaper than an OpenAI call. We don't use any credits for this one. So if we have a cast response, we use that one. If not, that's when we actually hit ChatGPT to get back whether our guess was correct or not. And then we update the quiz, and in the action, we rewrite the quiz cookie essentially with the new state. And then, because we've submitted the form, the page refreshes, client-side refresh, because we're using an enhanced form, and therefore gets the new message in right away. Is Zustand worth learning is the question. So Zustand is a state management library. I've seen people liking it maybe for about 2 years ago. I do try to do most things on the backend. I think that's the thing that's most worth learning, is doing things with forms and server-side logic. So you won't need any state management on the client. Client-side state management, I think, is the thing that trips up most people, that makes most things confusing. Redux was popular, for example. Zustand may have been popular now, but I'd say avoid it as you can. Try to keep your state in the URL, in cookies, in that sort of thing, and then the server does the hard work. But there will be cases where you may be able to get better UX if you do things client-side. And in that case, Svelte has its own stores, for example. So there you go. Not get message. You think Next.js is better? Next.js remains as a valid framework. I recommend. For sure, there are many use cases where I would say, oh, actually go with Next.js. But I'd say in the past year, I prefer SvelteKit. And I would be very interested to hear why you think Next.js is better. But similarly, I'm very, very pro the relatively recent Next.js changes with server actions, because they too make it more possible to do stuff on the server instead of the client. So you can also avoid Zustand or Redux or whatever else, because you are using forms and server actions and doing the hard part on the backend. it kind of allows you to be nice with web standards and keep your state in the URL and all of that. Better than vanilla React. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Or like, I can't even begin to list the reasons why I think that's true. It's user performance and developer experience performance. All of them are much better when you use Next.js. And I think Facebook Meta, creators of React, agree, because they've been doing more and more things in conjunction with Vercel and the Next.js team, including React server components. And that's a reason, actually, that I do like SvelteKit as well, because the person behind Svelte is the person behind SvelteKit as well, Rich Harris. So even though Meta is working with Vercel with a lot of the Next.js stuff, because Next.js had great ideas and became popular and they're working together, and that's great, it's not the same person. It's not Mr. React and Mr. Next.js. They're not the same people. It's not Miss and Miss and whatnot. Having the same like author behind those things, I know it's not a one-person job for sure, but having a guiding force to have the vision, I suppose, really helps. And I think that's really helped SvelteKit get to the place it is now, working so well with Svelte itself, even though it takes, what do they say? It takes a mountain, it takes a village. It takes a village to make Svelte and SvelteKit or any framework. Having Rich being in that position and actually working in Vercel as well, so where many people deploy to and use services there, I think that's critical in why SvelteKit has been so good. And React 19 compiler, normalization, yeah, exciting stuff with, well, I'd say most people aren't like super excited with React 19, but for the things that it's bringing, those are really exciting stuff. Like, I mean, it's not things you put in the conference and then people go crazy, like Suspense many years ago, or server components. But in practice, in real apps, it's super exciting features. Would you be willing to share how much you make in a month? Oh, it depends on the project for sure, because truthfully, whenever I get a contract or whenever I get a permanent job role offer, I ask to be in the highest bracket of their salary range, which means that I may be able to work with Google and ask for like, or I guess, let's say a San Francisco startup, which can pay 300K or 400K. And I want to say, I believe I'm a top performer. I'm going to be a top performer. So I want the top of that salary range. But also keep working with smaller startups that are not based in the US that have like insane costs. London startups that maybe the same role would be around 100 or 150K or something like that. Or maybe Greece-based companies or contracts, or even smaller. I guess the important thing to me is to make a viable living wage for sure. But it is for the company to believe that I can bring maximum value to what they're usually paying for that range. So that's why I'm not going to give you a number of, oh, it's 110K or whatever, because it honestly depends on the client. I want to be at the top of the range for the role I'm applying with, and that varies widely if you're working with a San Francisco company versus London company versus like Spanish company or something like that. And what a junior makes in that range, I would look at Glassdoor. Glassdoor apparently can be quite accurate. That Hired, I think, had a nice salary calculator, but Hired is closing down apparently, so I'm not sure how it is. And Not Getting Mad also says, you get nervous during the interviews. That's fine. You only need one yes, and that's it. It's always hard to be rejected at any stage. It's always hard to get a no. So I don't think I can argue anybody. I can't argue myself to be like, oh, don't be sad about this. It didn't work out. Even if you don't really want the job, then it still feels bad. It's like in relationships as well. But the logical truth of the matter is that you need a good fit from both sides. You need to be feeling it well. They need to be feeling it well. And there are many companies, and you only need to do well, like on one series of interviews to get a great job offer. So yeah, don't worry about it. It's not like make this one or break it. Even if you're applying to like FANG companies, there are other companies in the FANG space. There are going to be humans there. And even those companies, like if you apply for Google and they say, no, it's not like, oh, it's my 1 chance in the world to work for Google or wherever else. Like, you'll always get more chances. So yeah, that's what I would say. That don't think of it as this is it. I need to make or break it here in regards to nerves. And the more you do it, the better you'll be at it, the more you'll be able to see the questions you usually get asked, and then you can run them back and see how you can answer them well. Work from home jobs, yeah, that can play a part, but even work from home friendly companies can tell you, well, you're living in Spain, so we won't be paying you as if you were living in London. Or if you were living in San Francisco. There are some companies that do have salary equity equality regardless of where you move, but hey. And the biggest obstacle, they're looking for people with a lot of experience. I guess it makes sense. They're looking for people that are proven independent self-starters, because when you're working from home, they can give you less guidance, less say. But that's why I would suggest trying to find like maybe a local client for a small amount, or maybe even free, like for exposure, as a photographer would say, because that you could put on your CV and you could say, oh, I got this e-commerce site live or this portfolio site live, and that plays a part. That is huge for recruiting companies. Not recruiting companies, for the recruiting side of companies, I wanted to say. Right, so back to this. These are all very interesting questions, and thank you for coming to me and sharing your journey. Please keep coming and keep updating with your progress and your questions for sure. I love helping out. It's very real when this happens. Right, so the form submits a user's guess. We validate against the database or against ChatGPT whether we think the answer is correct or not. And then we update the cookie, which causes this message history to update as well with some nice UI. And maybe in the future, if there is a wrong answer, then we could have some flagging functionality, so the user would be able to say, I thought this answer should have been accepted. I guess Duolingo does this, so maybe we'll steal that sort of feature. And a benefit of having the cast responses in the database as well is that I can go back and see that for this question and this guess, we got an incorrect answer. I can edit it in the database, and then for everyone from then on, it will be accepted, which is good. Will make the game better for everyone. And I guess we'd need like some CRUD functionality for that part as well. Anything else we've done? I think that's it. Because the same logic keeps repeating until you get to... Whoa, am I running the dev server? I guess so. Svelte is also full stack, right? Is the question. So Svelte is like React, and SvelteKit is like Next.js. And as I said before, the reason why I like it is that both Svelte and SvelteKit have the same visionary person, let's say Rich Harris, behind them, unlike React and Next.js, who have a few different people that started in different companies and try to do those projects. When React came to life, like a million years ago, it was a very, very different team. There was no full stack framework. Like JavaScript was still mostly on the front end, I would say. I guess there were Express servers. Anyway, long story short, eventually Next.js emerged as one of the most popular, and became one of the most popular because it was one of the most good frameworks as well. And then they started marrying together. While with Svelte, it came first, but the same person created SvelteKit to do the full stack functionality. And lots of the features that you see in Next.js have been inspired by SvelteKit, and some of the features you'll find in SvelteKit have been inspired by Next.js, and the same goes for Remix as well. A lot of the features found in the Remix framework from the React router, people, Duo, team, have inspired SvelteKit features and Next.js features and vice versa. So it's good to have like cool projects all around the stack. But yeah, the reason I like SvelteKit is specifically for the backend integration here. And it takes a bit of getting used to, but like in React, you have the server actions. Every page, every route, the server part of every route can export an actions object which says what happens when a form gets submitted trying to hit this page. You can have a default form action, which means that you don't need to pass anything to the form itself. But you can also have named actions. And then in your action object, you'd be saying that I want the retry action, whatever. We may come to that with the CRUD part. Can I suggest some personal projects for getting hired? So as I said before, don't do personal projects like for yourself. It's better if you have a real client. So if you need to DM people on Instagram or WhatsApp or whatever you're using, try to do that, or try to find a local business, try to find someone else, because that makes a huge difference. If you say, I've done this portfolio for this personal trainer friend of mine or whatever, that will play a better part, that will be more impactful than saying, oh, I did like this AI chatbot for myself as a weekend project. Because engineers, some of them, they like to gatekeep and then be like, oh, personal projects don't count. But the moment you bring in a real client, someone you potentially got money from as well, then they cannot scoff at that. They'll be like, all right, they got this project through. And it makes sense, because the moment you have someone else with a spec and expectations from you, it will make you a better engineer. It will affect how you go about the project. You'll want to deliver it like, well, but also fast. So I would suggest, take it simple, like a simple portfolio project. If you haven't done any of that, for someone else. And if you've done that, then maybe an e-commerce project, which is a lot more complicated, like something with CMS functionality. But if you're comfortable with portfolio projects, then e-commerce would be the logical next step. So that's my advice. That would help a lot. Try to estimate how long it would take you. And if you do want to get money out of it, be explicit in the beginning, like of the spec. I'm going to work on it for 1 month, and I expect, like, whether it's 100 euros or it's going to be for free, or you're going to get me coffee, or it's 1,000 euros or 10,000 euros, or whichever currency you have. Just tell the client from the beginning, be forthright. Don't just do it with like implicit, oh, maybe, in the end we'll discuss a price or whatever. Doesn't matter what the price is, a lot or little, a lot for you, a lot for them. Doesn't really matter. But come up with the terms in the beginning, because in the end, it can get squirrely. So set up the terms in the beginning. It's going to be for that long, for this much money. There may be like server costs, domain names, all of that. So try to figure that stuff out first, because if you don't, there'll be misunderstandings. Cool. So we've talked about forms, the cookie refactor. I mentioned that the cookie refactor is good because anonymous users will be able to play this with no problem, but we do have a limit when we use cookies, a 4 kilobyte limit, which we're close to with 3.3 kilobytes as per this quiz. So, hey. Hello, Storm Chaser. Nice to see you today as well. It's been a while. Cool. So, I've managed to do 40 minutes of talking and demoing. Let's try to do some code. And at the end of the quiz, or I guess in some corner at all times, we could have like the score, maybe with responsive design. If it's a large screen, then you show the score. doesn't really matter. Let's calculate the user's score. How are you doing today? From Caesar. I think that's big enough. So our DB quizzes repo has this derived state from quiz, which gets the quiz we've parsed from the cookie, and then adds some messages early to the conversation. So it always starts like this. You can have do something fun here and randomly put in messages, like instead of hard-coded messages, you could put in some other messages. Then we start adding the question. If there is an answer, if there is no answer, then we stop asking questions. So it will stop here. This is a breakpoint in this instance. But if there is an answer, then it's going to be printed out like this with the hint of whether it's correct or not, which leads to whether it's going to get this outline as well. And when we submit the answer, we also add a comment to the cookie, which just says correct for now. This one can also be randomized to use like different emojis or different copy, but especially if you answer a question wrong, it will include what the correct question is. So that's pretty cool. And we also check, have we really answered all questions? If so, you've completed this trivia journey. So I guess this is where we'd want to add another message. And again, we could have a range for the copy. Maybe that's something fun we can do in the end. Some taser listening in the car. Mobile development, eh? I love that jokes, if that wasn't clear from previous live streams. So we may need like an internal method that gets all the questions and then derives your score. And then according to whether it's good or not, it gives you like better emojis or anything like that. But we won't worry about it for now. If we want to complicate these things, maybe we can just say for every is correct, we add something to the score. Maybe that's an easy way to do it. So let's keep answering. Also note, how do I get this to keep focusing, or when I click the play page to be focused here? So this input has the autofocus attribute. Did you know about this one? I think I knew like at some point and I forgot. SvelteKit has the keep focus data attribute that you can use to keep focus on some things, but it doesn't work with postforms, because in postforms you're supposed to use autofocus. So keep that in mind. It's something I was googling, how do you do this? And the answer is use autofocus on the input. So this is the thing that gives me focus here. Of course, if I click around, it won't go back to giving me focus here for accessibility, but I can still click the label and get there. Anyway, what was I saying? I was going through the quiz. Say navy, would it accept it? Oh no. Right, so we're in this state of the you've completed the trivia journey. And I'm saying that in this point, we can say you've scored some points. That's what we want to do. How do we calculate this? We can start keeping like a high score. It starts at 0. We're gonna reassign it. Give 10 points on a correct thing. We could even do minus points and then give them like a skip or something. But let's not be cruel. Let's just keep adding points. And we'll want to use the score variable here. And that's it. You scored 90 points. Or we can keep the... Like, in order to make this bold, this by default is going to be escaped, HTML escaped to disallow naughtiness. But I guess if it's a assistant message, then we can format it and then not allow users to be naughty and try to add like asterisks and emphasis or whatever strong tags, keep them from being naughty. So assistant message, do we say like HTML render? Oh no, how would that work in Svelte 5? Hello, Marin. Nice to see you. Cute cat, if I can see your avatar correctly. Orange cat? So, Svelte 5, how do I do raw HTML? Yeah. Use the snippet as is, it says. But that's not a Svelte 5's snippet, unfortunately. And I did remember correctly, like with this thing. But are we on the wrong level? Maybe here we need to pass HTML, the message content, the system message. Yeah, that's it. Easy, easy peasy. So on this level, like this thing, this string, we need to say, feel free to render unescaped HTML. And we just pass in the snippet and it just works. Good. So no need to change anything further. Again, this is what we did. This is now strong. I was worried because with Svelte 5 snippets, as we've seen, you render the snippets like this. You render children, kind of like React in this case. So I'm like, how do you escape if the children is like HTML? But you just escape them on this level. All right. So this is the equivalent of dangerously set inner HTML or whatever React calls it, underscore dangerously set inner HTML. Cool. I think that means we've just done this. If we do seeding at some point or after we've done the multiple quizzes, we can have our end-to-end framework actually go through a whole quiz and ensure that they see the points and all of that correctly. So yeah, lots of end-to-end confidence. So yeah, fast one, I guess. So we've done this quiz. How do we create a new one? What I have done in the past is I have a file with my hard-coded questions that I can seed with a script. And I guess I could have more or more quiz IDs and stuff. But I don't want to run scripts every time I want a new quiz. I want to have like a nice interface that I can use on my phone. So how do we do that? Let's log in. Because I do think this functionality will only be available to people with an account. And create a new route to create a new quiz. And did we add anything else here? Not really. Let's add a feature. And if you wait for Fly to deploy for 2 minutes, you can now try and see your high score in the end. So in SvelteKit, how do you create new routes? It's you go to source, routes, and then reflect the path that you want the route to be. And in this case, what do I want? Maybe I want quiz create, quiz new, one of those. Let's say quiz create, which of course doesn't exist in real life, or in localhost just yet. To make that exist, we need to reflect the path. So in routes, new, create and add a plus page.svelte in there. And bam, we're here. Easy peasy. But we may want inspiration from another page just for consistency. So usually I copy like the about page and slide those things in. But I don't want to say about. Create new quiz. That's what I'm saying here. And the SEO stuff, the metadata titles. And blah, blah, blah. Subscribe to JOHNNIFY, all of those things. Don't need. What do we need? Maybe nothing. Do new quiz form, all good, all nice, all beautiful. And I think that's the creating new route part done. And it's time to create a new form using Superforms Proxies. So I'll show this with array proxies first, and then go to the final solution, which is Superforms Nested Data, being able to accept JSON. This solution would work without JavaScript, so it's better if that's important for you. This one will be much more readable, as we'll show later. Much, I think, nicer to work with, but needs JavaScript. So if that's super important for you, then don't go for that one. Go for the first one we've talked about. But we said we'll need a form, and we can take inspiration even from our answer form, I guess. Don't print anything. Or this whole logic. So we've shown, like in the past 2-3 years, we've been showing how to do forms with SvelteKit vanilla. We've gotten a good understanding of how that works. Lately, in the past few months, we've been using Superforms a lot, because once you understand something, you are willing to use the helpers and third-party libraries if they've stood the test of time and they're successful. I really like Superforms for that reason, and it's super popular. It's not like Johnny's niche library that I need to learn and forget. So that's what we'll use here. And what Superform likes is declaring a schema. So the thing you'll be submitting, how do you want it to look like? And therefore, we'll create a quiz schema. And we know that the quiz will have a published stat at some point, but we don't really care. If we are to do it with the array proxies, we could have an array of questions. So a string array, an array of strings, and an array of answers. And that could be it. Anything else from the docs here? Probably not. They have an example running somewhere, but we won't care too much about it. All right, so we have the schema. First thing is to use it on the backend to pass in the data to the front end. And again, we can take inspiration from the play server endpoint as we go through the quiz. All we do in the end is super validate the answer schema. So in our create base of server, we can just say that our form uses the quiz schema, super validate from SvelteKit Superforms, the Zod client from SvelteKit Superforms, and that is going to pass form data to the front end. Use the quiz schema, all good. So I think the trickiest thing with Superforms is how many things are called forms. It's called Superforms. You pass the form, then the form has form data. I think that's the trickiest thing to get to terms with. But this makes the sibling plus base.svelte get access to data. That again. In its props. So SvelteKit Magic is going to populate this with whatever we return on load methods, like the one we just wrote. And for this page specifically, we'll have this form key that has the Superform stuff specifically for this form that's going to have questions and answers. And we are supposed to pass this down to a form component That's usually easier. So let's create a quiz form. And we can take inspiration from the answers form. Just copy everything, I guess. Copy everything. Maybe not. Let's do it one copy paste at a time. So the script block is gonna look like this. We will have inputs. Maybe we won't have the send icon. The data it's gonna get is the quiz schema, inferred by the quiz schema. It's not gonna get a disabled prop. That's gonna made up. We need the quiz schema here too. And then finally we can get some form data here. So I was thinking maybe this I can call superform. Then this is also called superform. So I don't know. Naming is very tricky with these things. All of this, so this could be vanilla SvelteKit. In order to make this hit a form action to the same page, I don't need to give it a name or an action or anything like that. I do want to mutate data, so its method is going to be post, not the default get. We're going to need this. And to use JavaScript, which we'll definitely want when we convert to the JSON version of submitting this form. But also to keep having the client-side routing functionality. Just smoother UX, be able to like show this delayed thingy if the form takes a while to respond, so spinners and stuff. We're gonna use enhance. Watch out, it's not the enhance that SvelteKit has by itself, but it's a magic enhance that Superforms creates for us that does a few other things, including being able to submit JSON with no extra work from our part. So that's why we're using this one. And what else do we want here? Maybe nothing. We do want to render it here and pass in the data. It's going to be the data form. Close this component, and then you can see it here. We've got it. And that's for development. We can bring in super debug from Superforms, which I guess takes the data object here. And then, it takes the form. Yeah. Yeah, no? Data form. Takes the form. Takes the form data. Here you go. So it's a format that's going to have questions and answers that's going to be arrays, but we have no way to add things into them. When this form gets submitted, which currently doesn't, it cannot be submitted because it doesn't have a button. So let's add a button. And let's see how we've added a button from here. It's just a form button. What do kids use nowadays for save icons? That's a question to you. Not too big. Publish, maybe we can call it publish. Save. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Add some inputs here. What I want to say in this stage. And I suppose if we think that the default quiz is going to have 10 questions with 10 answers, then we're going to need 20 inputs altogether. The magic login form, which is the one that asks for your email to send you a magic link, may be the one that I like the most. So I'll copy stuff from there. Let's try this one. The name of this input should be questions. Let's see. I don't know this one. Sorry. So in the profile, we have this. I think that's nicer. So let's copy that one. So on the profile page, the details form. The details form has a form filled for name. That's the one I want to steal. And let's keep this one with a built-in loading spinner. If you've done it before, why not do it again? Right, this doesn't have a name, it has a questions. And it can be like question number 1. Do we want a description for each one? Maybe not. Do we want to say like keep it real? Don't make it too tricky. Do we want to make it what's the answer to life, universe, and everything? What's the actual code is what I wanted. Talk is too long. Oh well, you can see that this updates, but it could be because we only have one form field with this. Oh, and we're binding this value, which is not what we want. No, that's exactly what we don't want. What we want is to use proxies, array proxies. For now. We do call it Superforms here in the example, so maybe that's what I should be doing. It's different casing, that's crazy. then I don't need to alias this. Even this doesn't like it, my editor doesn't like it. Anyway, that's by the by. What do we keep there? The form, the superform. That's for consistency. Maybe I'll do it like a PR where I think that I'm not gonna do it now. But what I was looking for, just open the link straight there again, is that when you submit inputs in anything in a form, they have to be strings. That's how HTTP works, I'm afraid. But handily, Superforms has some proxies, so you can turn things that are really strings into the things you expect, thanks to the Svelte and the schema that we've created. So if we're expecting an array there, we can use an array proxy. Like so. And this is going to be questions. It's going to be all errors. Who knows? But the thing that will bind here for the first input is going to be the question 0, indeed. Is it? No, it's not. It's values 0 here. What we got from here. So now, if I answer something, you can see that it adds it as an array item. And if I were to do the same thing again, but change the index of the second one to 1, to the second element, it does update accordingly. Well, I did them the wrong way around, but just to show that you can do this. Of course, that's not what we'd actually be doing. Copy pasting like 10 things. We'd be doing range, I guess. This will not have pre-filled an array of 10 values. So what I want is the range function that I've created for myself. Does ChatGPT, can it create it for me? Maybe, maybe not. If I'm in a TypeScript file, I think that snippet will work. There you go. So each one of those I want to do the form fill stuff and then end the for each, expand this, and this is the thing that I want to be dynamic, key, and this I want it to be key +1 as well. And then you can see, hello world, how are you? We can add 10 values here. And we could add some extra functionality here, some extra schema validation here, I would say. like that each one of those strings should have a minimum of 3 characters. Feels like maybe you can ask 42 question mark and then the answer is life, universe, and everything, or like hitchhiker's guide to the galaxy. But anything else feels crazy. Let's say it. And maybe maximum amount of characters, 127 for the fun of it. And we should have like messages too, but hey. So if I undefine this, will it give me the error? No errors yet, like no field errors, I suppose. We'll figure that out later, but at least when we submit, it should stop me. And I guess similarly for the answers, maybe even less. Like 1 character answer is fine. And maybe we can even refine this. I don't think Zod trims things by default. So let's see if I... Yeah, so it's not trimmed. So if we have a transform here of the value, trim it, does that change anything? I guess not. Maybe that happens in the end. No search here. Anything here about trimming? Not really. But hey, that's fine. I think that will work. Like, let's look at the transform. So transform. Yeah, it gets the value and then you can respond to something else. And I just want to return it trim, which should be fine. Anyway. We'll see. What else do we want to say? We want to say that we could do the same thing with the answers as well. And then on the back end, we'll be mapping the questions to the answers. And that's fine. And as I said, this would work without JavaScript. But I do think it'd be easier to have questions be an object that has a prompt and an answer, instead of having like an array of questions and an array of answers, and then on the backend you need to map things out yourself. So that's what we'll try to do. Maybe we can try to do the backend too. See if this actually submits. So this one gets a 400, but we cannot see the errors. We'll fix that later. I guess we need to like fill everything. And oh, we have no answers. Yeah, so I'm not going to do it like that. That's too much work. I would say this the browser said, well, this is going to fail. This will never be able to submit. So let's switch to trying to do it with the nested data approach. Connect some honey. Story of my life. All right, so we've seen the way to do it with array proxies. This is a vanilla HTML thing. This is how forms work. If you give the same name, or the different form, but it would happen on any form. When you give the same name to many input fields and you submit all of that, then you actually submit an array of strings, which is quite neat. And it is what we're doing here. But if we only had questions and we wanted to persist like 20 questions, that'd be fine. You see this very often with tags like checkboxes, that sort of thing. But in this case, our questions are actually an object. They have a prompt. Each question has a prompt. Each question has an answer. And it's nicer to group them together if you can, rather than mapping them yourself on the backend afterwards. I think it's going to be easier, but remains to be seen. Superforms does have a helper for nested data, have a way to work with nested data. So we'll see if it actually works better for us here. So we'll update the schema. We'll say that actually questions are a Z object that has a prompt and has an answer, singular. And then this is going to break, but that's fine. Then, so this doesn't exist. Then, here on this level with the validators, looks like, we need to specify that the data type is JSON. The default is form, vanilla, but we need to specify a data type JSON. Great. And then I guess we can just use it. It's just going to be a regular value here. And I guess we could start with an empty object here and iterate through those, but I'm not sure. Let's start with a predetermined amount and see where we go. So what's the name going to be? No names. No names now, no labels. It's going to magically work for us with JavaScript, I guess. So we don't need this anymore, sadly. I'm just going to say that we actually need this. Oh no, like there's some Santian magic. It's going to fail. In the end, we just need an input to bind the value to. In this form control, we don't particularly need it. What we'll be doing here is using the form data questions. Of course, I call it form. So form data questions. Hello, Milan. How are you doing? So this is the form. We're not using the actual tag itself in this case. Is it thinking that, oh, we don't have one? I see. Is it going to be happier if I say form data questions? So it doesn't look like that. Ah, the form. It's the form. Come on, Sonny. Get it together. Get it together. So maybe what we had would be fine. So form this guy, right? No, it's not. It is a deconstructed this thing. Did I mess up the schema somehow? So questions, is an object now, it's an object that has a prompt and a thing. Ah, but it's an array, come on. I have many of those. All right, that's it. And now the prompts are not arrays and neither are the answers. All right, getting there. TypeScript helps. So form data questions key will be something. And the path here, I don't know. To say questions to keep it happy. And cool. So let's see. Hello. Who knows? So is it breaking? Ah, a key and then the prompt. I want to tie the prompt, of course. Optional operator? I guess not. So maybe that's why you need to do this. You need at least one test tag. I suppose that's what they want. So instead of this random array, whatever, we need to iterate through form data questions. But we will not be using the actual value. We're ignoring this. That's why we're using the underscore. And then we'll be using the index. This is going to be index 1. And this will always exist. So now it's fine, but we have no questions. And that's, I guess, because by default on the backend, we'll need to specify to give some empty questions. Which I guess we could make be something. That's where I do my reigns trick. and we pass the questions as the default questions as the questions here to Zod, and that should give us 10 inputs indeed. And now we can update them. Great. And validation will be happy, but if we submit it will be unhappy because they don't satisfy the minimum length of the prompt or the answer. Great. So we got there in the end. Well, that's something. And the thing is, that what do I want to pass here? Looking at constraints here. How do you pass constraints? Interesting. There may not be errors here. Sure. We'll see about constraints in a bit later. But what do we want? We want maybe question number 1 to be something like of a little header. If that's gonna be too big, put some title here. Is it? Because we will want all of these to have like a question, a prompt. Prompt. And an answer. And it seems we do connect to the correct one. Yeah, I guess because the label is not an input, so I'm not sure what magic they're doing here. What I'm saying is that maybe I will want a little header for each one. Will it be an H2, possibly? Let's look at SADCN typography. Here, what we like. Do we like this? Probably not. Used this before. Tables, list, inline, lead, large. Large. Small. They're using the small component too. Yeah. Muted. Right, maybe like what the H3 looks like. Is there a difference between H3 and large? Maybe, not really. No leading, no nothing, just this. And maybe all of these need a bit of padding. We could put them in lists, I guess. just put them in a div. It's an ordered list for once. All right, so a million questions here for us to answer. But we should be good to go. Diabolical question, diabolical answer. We should be fine. Anything else they tell us to do? Yeah, we want the errors and constraints. They're claiming we can put a data invalid on each one. Errors object we can get from here. From only like conditional chaining, because maybe there are no errors. It makes sense. A similar thing for the answer. And then this example says, oh, there's a span. Yay. And a brick. What do we do with other things? Field errors. Yeah, that's not gonna work. This magically gets errors and stuff. Svelte 4 as well. Let's change this. But it's doing this in the slot. That's why I was scared to refactor it. Oh well. Ugh. Small text. Oh well. So instead of this, maybe we just want a div with a class fixed base. And inside here, we want the error, but we only do it if something is wrong indeed. Let's render this. Sure. Alright, string must contain at least 3 characters. There you go. It's complaining already. And we want the same thing here, but for the answers. The answer. Cool. And we can give a custom message to each one of those. By specifying something in the schema here. And I think, how do we do that? You pass in something like as the second parameter or something. Oh, there you go. Right. But we don't want these to be pre-filled with errors, like it's not the user's fault. We're pre-filling them like this in the error state. And how do we apply the constraints? I think we get them from the form. Some vanilla constraints too. So on the front end here, we can get the constraints and we can spread them. Maybe. Optionally. Maybe not. Or spread nothing. Forget about it. We're not doing a real browser about this in any way. What we are doing is not showing the errors to begin with, and with that there must be something we can pass here server side to super validate as the third parameter. Nope. Initial form errors. There you go. Errors true. Good. So errors false means it will start with no errors, but if you mess around with it and then try to submit, then it will show the errors, which is fine. Like, be user friendly, not user hostile. Assume that it'll fill everything out. Cool. And yeah, something funky has happened here. Big up to. Yeah, looks all right, I would say. Right, questions, prompts, and answers, all looking good. There are other things we may want the quiz to have. So maybe like a title. It definitely has a publish stat, but it's optional. So the user doesn't need to specify. The moment they create it, publish stat will be immediately, which we want to know, but we'll do in the future in case you want to schedule, for example, a quiz to go live later. Queue up a few, create a few on the weekend, and have one for every day. If that's how you roll. And does this still look good? Not ideal, but decent. All right. So any other consideration? It is that only logged in users should be able to create quizzes. Maybe even only myself should be able to create a quiz. So what should we do there? We can make this a hidden route, so no link anywhere. No link anywhere. And in the load method, besides loading the data, we can redirect if the user is not me, funnily enough. I guess we can extend this logic, but if the route starts with a quiz, then you just need to be logged in to see it. So if I try to go here, if I go here, I'm logged in, it's fine. If I try to go here with incognito, I get redirected to login, which is fine. But just for now, maybe we also want to say that, let's see that user in the locals. If the user email doesn't include at magripis.com. Then maybe redirect you to log in, or to profile, or to play, or wherever. So if you're not me, then you cannot see this page. So if we sign out here and I log in with my Google Mail, I'd say magripis@gmail.com, and I try to go to quizzes, quiz create, get redirected to play. I'm like, what? And that's just for now, as we are like experimenting. I'm a big fan of getting things in production, shipping as much as possible. But for this one, I would want to finagle and not allow others to actually get in here. So I'll only allow myself to create quizzes for now until I think about this some more. And as a little tangent, it's important to take breaks. At the end of the previous live stream, we had an extra table, the answers table. We only were allowing users to be able to play the game, and we're going down a rabbit hole path that we started 4 hours earlier in the stream, or when I was thinking about it. And I do think it was the wrong path in the end. So taking a break and then revisiting this and be like, all right, let's just use cookies for this, drop this table, refactor this logic, and here we are today. I think that's important. At some point, no matter how experienced you are, and no matter if you're pairing with someone else as well, you should take breaks and reassess the situation, reassess like your whole approach. Am I doing the right thing? And that's why I wouldn't want to push this live like immediately, and it'd be boring for you to, for me to do what I usually do in real life work, especially when I'm going to the office, or especially when I used to go to the office and we had a WeWork with a barista and all of that. Take a break, get a coffee break with another engineer, chat a little bit about something else. 15 minutes, sometimes I would just like walk up to the terrace and walk back down and work. Use the time to like reset your brain and be able to see the problem fresh and see, is that still a good idea, or was it wrong? Should I do something else? That's what needed to happen sometime at Tuesday's stream, which is why we stopped, took a break, thought of it offline, and refactored to the current logic. I did want to mention this, but now, just to validate, and maybe this is a cool trick, because if you have a client, then you can do something similar to only include people in a specific workplace to be able to access the admin dashboard, for example. Them and you, maybe they'll give you a company account email as well. Or you can just hardcode your regular one, your GitHub one, whatever. You get the point, I am sure. Cool. So with this little break, we need to persist the quiz. So let's get a new bullet point here, because we have been at it for a while. Let's see, persist a new quiz. Action to persist a new quiz. So this is being populated by the backend. Then we did a lot of front-end stuff, and then we press create and something happens. What happens? Nothing, because we haven't created it. Because we're using SvelteKit, this form, which is not named, it will be attempted to hit the default action for this page. The page is quiz create plus page.server.ts. It's the same path that you'd put in the URL. So in order to actually handle this payload, we need to define an actions object and say the default action is async, and then we do stuff. And we can see with Superforms or other places, I guess, here what we can get back. Never do this. Do they have anything else with in the nested data case? Let's double check. Not really. Cool. So we can just take inspiration from any other page, including the play page, just to see what we have there. So we also have a default action there. We get the request and we pass it to super validate along with the appropriate schema. So SvelteKit gives us the request. We can pass it along to super validate along with the quiz schema. And that will give us a form which may be valid or not. If it's not valid, somehow it got around our client-side error handling. We can return a fail. This you need to return, unlike some other things that throw errors. This one you need to return, the fail from Superforms. But if it hasn't failed, then we can get all the questions from the form data. And this will be an array of prompts and answers. Great. And we'll need to insert these to the database and move on with our life. I guess we'll get like an ID back, and maybe we can get the user to that quiz to play it or to edit it. I'm not sure. Maybe you'll just go to play it. Maybe that makes sense, actually. Right. So do they have like a redirect example? Is it see other 307? No, temporary redirect. See other 303. Yeah. The moment you type it, like you know the answer. Maybe that should be one of the questions. What's the code for a see other direct? Cool. So we have this thing. We want to paste this to the database. In the locals, we've done our dependency injection thing. So we do have the quizzes repo indeed. So we want to get the ID back after doing a create quiz person, but that person doesn't exist. So there's that. Which we'll need to implement. And I'm just thinking, like, can I infer what the question looks like here? Maybe. Anyway, let's go to our interface, quizzes repo interface. We want a create quiz. Questions will be like this, and it returns a string. Which will return the ID. Great. Beautiful. And it could be getting the I guess no, it has an ID too. It could be getting the published at as well, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's say it takes an object, and this is an object too. Let's predict that soon we'll be doing, we'll be passing a public stat as well for scheduling quizzes. Right. So we want this method to be implemented. We have a database implementation of the quizzes repo. So let's start writing create quiz thingy, auto-completing a few things. We don't need to say what it returns. All good. And maybe I do want to do the fat arrow thing here. And what do I want to do? I guess I want to do whatever we're doing on the seeding thing, on the seeding situation. So let's see, run seed. We want to create a new quiz, returning the quiz ID. Amazing. This I want to be asynchronous. We insert quizzes, it says. We insert to the quizzes table nothing, empty object, and return the quiz ID, which is automatically generated for us, a UID. Great. And then we can insert some questions. But it's going to be the given questions, although we spread the given question, but we give it a quiz ID, so it'll be attached to this quiz. I must name this something else, because questions is the name of the questions table. So there's a conflict there. Input questions. Quiz questions. Sure. And after this happens, then the quiz should be ready. So if we just return the quiz ID, we should be golden, good to go. And then on the server side, we can return our direct. And maybe because you want to play this, then you can go to play it there. I'm shying because that's going to be a 404. And, our triumph will not be obvious. But hey, if you go directly to the quiz ID, you should be able to play it, but we don't have that functionality yet. We'll make it work. All right, so I claim that this will create a new quiz, and if I delete my cookies later when I go to the play route, it's gonna give us a new quiz. So let's see, let's add some questions here. So it's a 302. What else? On status code. What's the most common status code? Too many questions that we need to add. Like, is Svelte a framework? No. There are controversial answers, like, is this full stack? Is it like front end or back end? What else? Something coffee related. please suggest questions to ask. If this fails, it's going to be dramatic. Yeah, that's the answer to left fingers and everything. 42. So anything else? So this will be interesting because I don't want people to respond with this. But ChatGPT should be able to figure out what I mean here. Let's see. Will it be less than 64 characters? Let's do those. All right, create. Great. So the quiz must have appeared, but we haven't implemented functionality to actually render a quiz when you directly go to this ID. But if we go to the play route and delete our cookies, list our quiz cookies, plonk. There you go. We get our new quiz. So demo success. And seems like it works. Nice. Hello, Storm says here again. So you made it home. Amazing news. And you realize we're working with Turso. Yeah, Turso connecting with Drizzle. Are you using Drizzle as well as the ORM to connect? And you're mentioning that you made the switch last week. Nice timing. Great. I was their main projects were use either Turso or Superbase. Those are my two favorite ones at the moment. And I've mentioned in the past why I usually go for one or the other. The thing is that this has some like chat style functionality. I was wondering, is this the one where I should actually have had Superbase for the real-time features instead of faking it with Turso? But I do prefer this as well. And another reason for going with Turso with this is because in this, maybe the only stream that I've done, that we're deploying to Fly IO, we're not deploying to Vercel. So we're not deploying to Vercel's edge network, we're deploying to Fly. One reason for now, but maybe we'll be doing more. And something that would be cool to show in the future would be embedded replicas. And with Superbase, it's very, very expensive and I think still under beta to be able to have replica databases all around the world, which is a big limiting factor. So maybe your front end connects to the edge, it's close to the user, the first response is correct, but then your backend talks to a database that's all the way around the world. So the other persons may be slow, which you can get around with some skeleton UI. But with something like a Fly and Drizzle combo, you can say, all right, my Fly servers are in these 6 locations around the world, and my Turso databases are in also these 6 locations around the world. So the backend to backend latency is minimal, and if we try to do embedded replicas at some point, which will be the fly machines creating a local copy of the Turso database right there, the latency will be 0, which is, is the bottleneck for this sort of app gonna be the backend to backend latency? Maybe not, but it's cool to solve these things because there are solutions that for some products and some situations will be helpful, will enhance the user experience and the product itself. So yeah, besides Drizzle being awesome and Turso being really cool, an extra reason to go with that one would be those performance shrinks you can do there. But of course, a big Superbase pro thing is how easy it is to do real-time stuff, which a chat interface may make it seem like it would be a good idea to do it with that one. Follow-up comment with SQLite, you're worried if it's future-proof. And I was thinking about this for a while, but the thing that really sold it to me was looking at more WWDC or WWDC, as apparently the presenters call them, conferences talk, doing a bit more Swift stuff for iOS. And they are using SQLite for the local instances of the databases on your phone. And I'm like, if it's good enough for Apple and iOS and it's like snappy and fast, maybe it's good enough for me. And of course, I realize they're not going to create a Postgres instance for your phone, but lots of complicated apps are managing to make do with SQLite features with that local thing. So embed the database in your phone with the SQLite features, still enough features and amazingly fast, blazing fast. And the user experience is usually, this app is awesome and snappy. So that made me think that it would be future-proof for many, many things. And Turso, I believe, like now or in the near future, will be showing vector functionality as well, which was my other concern if I want to do vector embeddings and vector search, that sort of thing. Postgres is a more natural solution for those. But if they're even doing this, then I don't know. So I think good choice. We've done well. Bless our own beers, as we say in Greece. Like pat ourselves in the back. Good choice for this and for now. So I'm not sure if we'll go iced coffee. Say cold coffee. Will it accept it? It does. The ice part is essential to Alfredo, but I guess it literally means cold coffee, so fair enough. All right, so this seems to work. We're going through the quiz. Perfect. What else do we need to do here? My doggy came. Hello, Summer. Set something here. And then custom number of questions, editing the quiz, and publish that with a date picker. Some more things, animation and confetti, we may get to today. But I'm thinking, do I need a direct route to a quiz? I do want... So in order to get the latest quiz, I needed to manually clear my cookies, and then it would fetch from the database the latest quiz, which is not acceptable because no user is going to know to do that. So we need to do something cleverer. And the other feature that we need is if you directly go to a quiz, then you should be able to play it. If you go to play / quiz ID, you should be able to play. So those are the two features that I would like to add. So second fetch latest quiz. those are the two things I would like to do now. So in this case, it was, we went to the play page, the latest quiz was still the one we had in cookies. We do not check the database again to see is there actually a latest quiz. And we need to clear the cookies, and then by refreshing the page, it will find out the actual latest quiz. So we need to get around that. So in the play load method, server load method, we check for the quiz quickie name. If we have the quiz quickie, then it parses the quiz, and then that's it. We just use that quiz. But we need to validate, is this the one we actually want? So maybe this always happens. So maybe the latest quiz is this, actually. And this is like the quickie quiz. And then does this not have an ID? Maybe not. Get the latest quiz. But if we have a quiz quickie, and let's do it in here. Then we want to parse the quickie quiz and check whether this is fetch quiz situation. We are returning the ID. Great. So let's say that the quiz always has an ID. ID string. Great. We are returning it. So if the latest quiz ID is not the other way around. If you have a quiz quickie, do what? The quiz becomes a quickie quiz. Great. And then we can do the case again. If we don't have a quiz, then the quiz becomes the latest quiz. We can say that this is null, I guess. Actually, like this. Yes, so. All right. So if we have a quiz cookie, we do all of this to actually validate that the cookie we have from the quiz we get from the cookie is the latest one. If we don't have a quiz cookie, this is not going to be defined. Or if we have a quiz cookie, but its ID is not the ID of the latest quiz, then we make the quiz be the latest quiz. We set a cookie with the latest quiz, blah, blah, blah. Maybe this should be a helper method because I also use the same parameters here, and that's easy to get wrong. Like if you update one, do you remember to do the other? But that's something for later. If I knew I would be doing one quiz a day, then this could be like 2 days or something, but 1 week seems enough. Do we need to check again? I don't think so. Because this fails. So I think that's it. I think this shouldn't affect the existing quizzes that we have here. And all we need now is to create a new quiz to see if we're gonna see it or not. And since this is local, I could just do a quick one with like simple data. I could have Playwright do this for me. Send to tests. Actually, which we have done in another stream. Haven't implemented this, but that's fine. So the thing is, if we press play now, will it fetch the silly quiz with the placeholder values? The answer is yes. So we did it. The answer is yes. So I guess we'll do the refactor to play a specific quiz by ID next. But first, let's do a little break. My puppy is sleeping, but I just need a bit more time. Catch you in just a moment. I will put up the farming music up. We'll be right back. right, we're back. This got me in the mood to refill my iced coffee. So here we are. We've managed to do quite a lot of things. We've managed to get quite a lot of honey. But now we're saying that if people go to like last play on some specific ID, we want them to be able to see and play that quiz, even if it hasn't been published, I would say, which is fine because the UUIDs will be unguessable. You won't be able to like go to like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and play like next day's quiz if you're being naughty. So that's fine, and it will allow you to like give early access to people that want to play the next quizzes, or for yourself to be able to test the quiz out and make any edits. So that's great. Great feature, great accidental feature. How do we do that? We've seen that when we actually create a quiz, we are attempting to redirect to a unique ID, but we get a not found because we haven't specified anything there. And we've mentioned that in SvelteKit, you have to reflect the URL, the path, inside the routes. So inside the routes play, we need to have an AAD, whatever the unique ID is, /page dot svelte and so on. But we've also seen that if we want to use dynamic parameters, we can encase things with magic brackets, and then everything there will be cut as the ID. So this directory will cut this, hello, and we'll give the ID to the backend to play with. We can pass it on the front end as well. But the question is, there is quite a lot of logic happening for this play route. So should we actually make the ID optional by doing this? Or should we have two different, kind of similar, but not exactly similar logic flows for when you just go to the play route or play/ID route? I think we'll try to do this. And therefore, we'll slide everything in here. So once again, in SvelteKit, if you want to capture a dynamic parameter, you do brackets, the parameter name. If you want to capture the parameter, but if it doesn't exist, it's still fine. It's still not the route. You do double brackets. So let's see what we can do here. Because there are some things that should change. Maybe we just need to restart the server. Yeah, that's here in this page. Great. So everything still works. But when we go to any route, then it looks the same, which is not exactly what we want. We want to fetch that specific puzzle, make use of the ID. So how do we go about doing that? The ID parameter will be in params ID. I can only imagine. Oops. This also tried to help, but didn't help. So a cool thing that SvelteKit has, I keep saying over Next.js, I love this, is the magic TypeScript type generation. So it knows I named this directory ID, so it's going to attempt to capture the ID. It knows that I did two magic brackets, so sometimes it will be undefined. And I didn't need to type any types myself. It's SvelteKit magic. While with Next.js, you need to define the props further out. You need to say, oh, ID is a string, but maybe it's not. If you change the name to be like slug, then you need to remember to change the types as well. Not great. This is one of my favorite SvelteKit features, that it's clever with these things. It knows what params exactly it has without you needing to do anything else. Cool. So, and I'm sure Next.js will get it at some point. Eventually. Right. So, how many times will I say so before I start saying anything else? There are things we want to do if we have an ID, other things we may want to do if we want to do other things. So we want to fetch the latest quiz. I guess we can pass the ID here, like a relevant quiz. DB quiz, this becomes. It's cookie set. Let's create a function for set quiz cookie. I guess. Which is should be getting the cookies, which can be typed like this. Why am I doing that? I have a plan. Maybe I only want to set these here. What happened? Something funky. So I'm thinking, should the quiz cookie name be suffixed with an ID? Maybe. Should it be the date of the quiz? The publish date for the quiz? Maybe. So this becomes fetch latest quiz, I suppose. Using it once, just here. guess so. Uh, we could prefix this with a quiz ID, but I would want to delete the previous cookie as well. Maybe not. Maybe not. So yeah, let's make this be das quiz ID. And similarly, let's have a get quiz cookie. Ah, but then how do you know the prefix? How do you know the prefix, wise guy? Like this. Right, so now we don't need to double check the quiz ID because we're fetching it specifically here. Right? So we can just do this. Can just do this. Else we can do this logic. Set the quiz cookie. Great. So now we have two cookies, one without a suffix of the ID and one with. But oh, here it's done something funky. We want to set the update quiz. All right. Delete existing ones. One. Not quite. So, does this set anything? Submit guess. What does submit guess return? Right, returns updated quiz, which does have an ID, to be fair. This has an ID. In theory. So if I try to answer here, what's going wrong? It would be the same, I guess. What else could be a problem? Do we always get it from a database? We're always getting the correct one. Quiz cookie is this. If quiz, we parse the quiz cookie, and that's it. Else, only else, we do this. Quiz the database quiz, and then we derive the state from the quiz. Feels fine. Or floor, it says. Well. Somehow you don't have a quiz to play. Yes, here. That's not how you get the quiz. You get the quiz like this. Like this. Like this. Like this. But how do I know the quiz ID? Huh, wise guy? So that's a bit of a problem. We do have the ID in this case. Not in this case, I guess. In the later case, it's gonna be in the params, right? So we could use it. I was thinking that for the latest page, the ID will be latest, but I'm not sure now. We do stringify the quiz. Suffix. Maybe there, maybe not. And if it's not, the suffix is latest, let's say. And similarly, to get the cookie, we do the same trick, suffix latest. Suffix is just ID. So maybe we're fine. And similarly here, to get the quiz cookie suffix, pass in the ID. ID is from the params here. Right, we're getting our second wind. So let's dump it check, set quiz cookie. Oh, we're calling it without the suffix. Get quiz cookie. Good. All right, we should be able to persist things now. Good. Good. Great. Paid something to ChatGPT for no reason with this trust data. Anyway, so the play route, the one that always worked, still works. That's good. Now, can we make the dedicated one work? I guess the problem with this would be that if you're playing the quiz and then you go to its dedicated route, it will forget that you were playing it. But hey, I guess we could always be getting the latest quiz ID or getting it. Is that better? Yeah, so that's the rabbit hole point where maybe it's better to take a break and think about it. So if we have no ID, we could be getting the ID of the latest quiz. And that's just like a database operation that this thing will need to do. Actually, maybe that's better than this made up like ID stuff. And then you can keep playing the quiz. Is that a real spec? Did anyone call me saying that I want to play the quiz forever? Not really. So who knows? If it's a real spec or not. But is it easier to understand than this? I think so. So sorry for that. Let's make the specific quiz work and we'll figure it out. Look at the DB quiz just because I want this. So this will not give us the same quiz because we are in a different path. It's going to be setting the state somewhere else. But it's getting the correct quiz. Great. We want to fetch the quiz. Do we want two separate ones for whether it's the latest one or by ID? Maybe. So we want to fetch quiz by ID, I think. Probably. We could have this logic inside here. It's just a fetch quiz that does everything. Find quiz by ID. And And it gets an ID. Great. We don't need this person for public stats, I suppose. It feels like that would need where public stats is in the past, by the way. Would we need the public stat for this? Probably not. So no need to query that table. We just query this. Get all the questions. If there are no questions, we return null. Return this. Great. Beautiful. And then maybe we have like a find latest quiz. Oh, there is a hidden order to the questions as well. Interestingly enough, we forgot about it. So this one really is find latest quiz. And I forgot that we do need where LT less than equals. Yeah. So that was correct. That's how you find the latest quiz. Get a quiz ID here. And then you move on with your life. So do we just call this fetch quiz and only do this part conditionally? I guess. Find quiz or latest. ID, quiz ID, quiz ID, quiz ID. Great. And then you move on with your life normally. And that's it. No need for find latest, no need to find by ID. The same method does everything. Just because it's like this one conditional, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. now this one gives us this thing. One that doesn't exist gives us a not found. And the play one gives us the latest one still, which is good. I think that's good. So I would like to reassess this suffix situation. Make it ID. After all. And you get it like this. But if it doesn't exist, what do you do then? Use the ID of this. I guess it's going to be the same. It's always going to be this. Yeah, it's fine. But what was my problem? My problem was in the action where we do need the extra call to get the DB quiz, sadly. Quiz ID? What is it? And the quiz, return this, same fail, quiz quickie, get it like this. All right, I think we're good to go. All right, 1, 2, and if I go to SvelteKit, wasn't the one. What was it? AEF. F. Good. Yeah, so the state gets persisted across the route with the ID and without the ID because this is the latest quiz. Great. Great. This means that if we create a new quiz, we should be able to play it straight away. So let's try to do the custom number of questions so we can do like 2 of them. To good questions and move on with our lives. All right, so we can create quizzes. At least I can, because we're explicitly checking if you are me. The logged in user is me on a specific profile as well, not every profile. Maybe we can see what we've done. Any tiki console logs. Quick double check. it's fine. Most of them was renaming. So in our create endpoint, we are pre-filling some default questions. They're empty and they're always 10. There are a couple of ways to go about this. We could have client-side state once again, and then press a button, and then you have fewer or you have more. Would you lose like the last one? I'm not sure. Or we could have like a URL parameter, query parameter here that specifies the number of questions that you have. Maybe that's better. Maybe. So what am I thinking? Like if I were to say 2 here, then there you go, just 2 questions. Can I make this dynamic? Is my question. And the answer is maybe. I guess if we were to do it this way and we press a button and we navigate, we would be losing whatever you've pre-filled. Although there are like snapshots, I guess. Let's see. Oh, only if we do back and forward. So if we do this and this, then it has this. But that's not exactly what we want. So let's see. Let's say generate default questions is actually a method that takes a length count number, and then you use the count here, and then we do generate default questions 10, and it looks the same. But can get the URL object, and we can say the question count, questions count, URL search params, get questions, percent, or 10. And then we pass this in, which looks the same, but if we were to say count equals 5, then it's a count, not questions, what are we doing? Then we'd only get 5 questions. Or like, or if we were to do 1, much, like just 1 question, great. And how would this work? In the UI, create UI, maybe even in the quiz form, we'd have like an anchor that would say add a question. And do we have any buttons anywhere? We have tons of buttons. Maybe I want the Turso login form. Maybe I want like this. Bring in the button from here. We'll find another icon for this. Add question. But not delete, no nothing like that. We do want this to have a type button, because any button inside the form by default is a submit button. So if we don't want this to submit the form, which we don't, then we need to do this. And looks great. But actually, we want this to get us to the same page, but with different search params, to add one more to the count. So let's have an add question URL, which is derived, because can this be like a method? Can I pass a method to derived? Let's see. Derived. It's derived by. That's the thing that accepts a function. Great. And that's going to be from the page store. We're going to get the URL, but URL current count is URL search params get the questions get count or 0 parse int again. See, I think it's Copilot that made me before a problem, or 10. And next count is going to be current count plus 1. So URL set blah blah. This, we actually need this. This answer is yes. Good. And return URL to string. Great. So now all of this to give this href here to the button. So if I press this, the count should become 2. And it works, like we see the navigation there, but my big concern is that we'll be losing this pre-filled thingy. So yeah, not ideal. I guess now it's an anchor, not a button. Right. So that's not great. This means that it's one of those cases where we need some client-side magic, I'd imagine. Client-side magic, client-side state. Because I don't want to feel like a million questions and answers, and then I go there and I press that question, and then I lose everything. That's where you break the monitor. That's where you frustrate the user. They never come again. You don't want this. So we need a different way. We can keep the generated default questions, I guess. A helper method. But none of this cleverness. And none of this either. I think that something will happen when we press this button. This button type button. And it will be a ghost button. Variant. Outline button. Sure. Sure. And maybe that's the point. We don't do this anymore. Out relates to be flex call, cap2. And maybe that means that we don't even need to make this full width. It'll automatically stretch. Stretching is good. Good for yoga. And I guess this can be like a plus sign. We could delete any one of those questions. I suppose. Add. I'm gonna add an icon. It's what I'm gonna do now. So prepare yourselves. Your favorite styling when we should be thinking. Plus. This is important. This is important, people. Fellas, I know you think it's important too. I'm overwhelmed by crosses. Plus signs. I keep seeing this and I see like Victor Belmont from Castlevania throwing like the things. Anyway, majestic icons. Should I not use majestic icons? Just because the name is silly? Nah. SVG, OMG. Paste. And let's pick any icon. Like the calendar icon. Plus. Copy. Link. Right, so here we actually want the flush plus add question. Right, enough delay. What do we do when we click add question? On click, we do something. What? Don't do any of this. I think that's correct, what they claim, kinda. The idea is correct. Yeah, that's better. I think that's exactly what we want. So from the other questions, Superforms has the state. We want to spread all the existing questions and add a new one. Let's see. Nailed it. Do we keep the other ones? Yes. Hello, world. Yeah. Oh, Nailed it. And I can only assume these yeah, they are validated, so I guess they must be sent to the backend. I think everything just works. You guys. Cool. If I don't make this absolute, do I want to make this button smaller? It's my question. Is this like too much for a button? And now that we have like the strength situation, by default it's strengths, I think. Self-start. Let's see what that does. Good. So yeah, just a small add question thingy there. Maybe on the right side. And let's say add another question. Beautiful. How do we remove a question? You may be thinking. So maybe for each one of these inputs, crazy inputs, maybe wisely I had the h2 there. Because here, maybe that's where we want another button. Another flex, but this is gonna be item center, space between. Between. And this is gonna be remove question. And it's gonna need like a minus sign. And it needs to be destructive. It's a real thing. Is it like too red? I think it's too annoying, indeed. So let's keep it an outline. Oof, but if you remove it, how do we know? Because these will have IDs. That's gonna be like a big thing, actually. Something to think about. Maybe every time you submit, you just delete all the questions for a quiz and that's it. Yeah, easy, I like it. So what we actually want, maybe we map the questions, we filter the questions, and yeah, exactly. If the index is the same, if the index is not the same, then we filter it out. So I think that's just gonna work. Bye. No. Keep this one and this one. So I'm gonna say goodbye to the question number 5. This one is gonna disappear, and this one, keep this one should remain. Yeah, worked. Brilliant. Lovely. Now you only have 5 questions. Great. But if you only have 1 question, then come on. Then come on. That shouldn't even be a thing. So we can double check here, but only if the question's length is more than 1, then you can remove your question. Cool. So you can remove this one. Well, you can keep adding them. Great. Plus sign, please. Plus sign, please become minus sign. That's what I meant to say. Whoa, huge. Huge. My trusty plus sign. Come minus. Copy path. Plonk. Don't like it. It's trash bin. Should have been trash bin, right? Garbage, trash, whatever you want to call it. Do I have trash bin? Guess not. Do I have like a delete? Not delete. No. Why is it like to the left? Kinda like it. Kinda like it actually. Again. So yeah, we'll need the minus sign. I think that's not a reserved keyword. All right. Maybe that makes it clear. Remove question, delete question, who knows? Who knows? We hardly knew ye minus button. But yeah, works good. Can see the focus freaking out sometimes, but it's fine. Cool. What else do we need? Let's prove that this works. I did have the leather-bound version of this book by Douglas Adams, of course. What a guy. Defining for my sense of humor as well. Right, so let's prove that we could have created new quizzes all along. Now one with just 2 questions, and it should be the latest quiz. So quite a lot happening here. Let's count for not the real thing. Should never see this. So let's try again. Oh no, I need to do it again. All right, we should go straight to play this quiz. Great, great, we did it. Proof of success. The answer is 42. Answer is Douglas Adams. It works. We got 20 points. And if we go to play, we go to this one because it's the latest and greatest quiz. Amazing. We nailed it. We nailed it. Anything else we need to do with the schema? When we create a quiz or something. This is an array. This should have like in the UI there is no way to get there actually, so this should be fine. Maybe we can have like an upper limit as well, just because of the cookie problem. So that's not just because I'm a bad guy. So when you do have 15, that should disappear. With a nice if statement. So there's another question thing. If it's less or equal to 15, so now it's on Ah, the hot reload got us. Yeah, it's less than 15. You can add one more. All right, good. We're adding features left and right here. Good stuff. What else do we need? An edit quiz route. Would we do this today? 3 hours and 33 minutes in? Probably not. Maybe yes. We need like lots more routes as well. Like to delete a quiz, to add the calendar, but we have like a few things to do still. But I think we will leave it for the next stream. My dog really wants to come, so we'll do a live demo. Marina, come. Opa. Opa. Here we are. Kisses are good. All right, so I have this huge dog situation that really needs a walk. Beautiful scenery, beautiful dog. We have the tree in full bloom, but we also have center stage trying to center to my face. At least to the doggy. Summer, how are you doing? Good? Do you want to eat the microphone? Usual? Alright, I will let you go. Oh. Right, so let's quickly push this to prod. You'll push this to prod and talk about what are the next steps. So we managed to do the variable amount of questions, and we should be able to do live production demo. In just a moment. Let's say 37. But we will need to leave for next time the edit route, because I'll also want to do the date picker, the ability to maybe delete quizzes, like quite a few things. And also animations, also confetti, deleting the quizzes, seeing all of them, persisting high scores, hard mode, which would be like a timer. You have a countdown timer. I don't know if people would appreciate this, but I guess that's why you have a toggle to be like hard mode or not, or normal mode. I think it would cause me anxiety, for example. Good girl, Summer. But maybe we will start with sharing results to friends, because the native share API that you can use on your phone, for example, is quite cool, and I don't think we've shown it on a stream before. And we can weave that in with like threads, sharing to threads, talk a little bit about the threads API, copying strings in modern JavaScript to the user's clipboard, that sort of thing. It could be fun. And by then, by next Tuesday, when we're back, I may have more thoughts on how we'd go about anyone being able to create a quiz. So as it stands now, quizzes are not tied to a user, but we've hidden the create UI, so only I will be able to create a quiz. So not sure how it would work on the long run. I guess the latest route would only be fetching my latest quiz. But then I'd need my ID somehow to be in the code base. So I'm not sure actually how that would work. We'll see. Let's have a look at the code. prod deploy has happened. Let's see if that's true. So production deploy has happened. Let's see if that is actually true. Trivia train. If we press play, we should see like the latest quiz, which is the one that was there all along because we haven't created one. But if I go to the hidden route of quiz create, then I am able to create a new quiz. And that's because I'm logged in as my magripis.com account. If you log in, you won't be able to get to that route even if you hard code it, because only I am able to create quizzes. We'll be doing custom quizzes in the future, not today. And just to prove that this works, let's create a new quiz. Seems like everything works. We've added the ability to have a variable amount of questions, but not 0 and not infinity. You cannot have 16 questions, up to 15. And we do this for cookie limitations. For the spec says that a cookie should be up to 4 kilobytes, and we're getting close to it even with 10 questions. So maybe 3 questions. Any suggestions? Let me know. What is this site using? Implemented with SvelteKit. Question 2. Who lives in development? This app. Accept. So that's something I wanted to try out. I wonder if ChatGPT will be able to accept an answer with just my name without having like an array of options. Please use short answer. So validation also works, we found out. And what else? What's something fun? What should you do? Haven't already? Subscribe. All right, let's create a quiz. All right, we can see it live. And if we go to play, we should also be fetching it. So if you visit this link, trivia-train.fly.dev.play, you should be able to play. The answer is SvelteKit. I'll add the exclamation mark to ask ChatGPT about it. Correct? Great. Who lives in development of this app? Could answer me. But let's see. So it is accepting Johnny, even though the hard-coded answer is something different. It's an instruction to ChatGPT. So this is a cool way to use this. And what should you do if you haven't already? Subscribe. But maybe it should also accept like and subscribe. So let's see if it does actually. No, the answer is just subscribe. So I should have had better instruction there to allow for the likes, which apparently they do help. Not sure. I think what helps is your support, your appreciation. This keeps me going, just knowing that you find these things helpful. And if you don't, suggest what I should cover that you would find helpful. I love showing real world solutions to real life problems. So suggest what you want me to cover, and if I can find a nice unique spin, especially if it's something that's not covered well or at all, then I will do my best to explain it to you. So there you go. Since this is actually done, this soon be active. Nice. I guess it is disabled, but it visibly looks the same. So I'll think about resolving this in the future. But for now, we've shown how this works. We can create new quizzes easily. I can link to specific quizzes if I like. The share state, so I have finished it on the other URL, but it's still like this. So I can't really cheat, but I can still go to the cookies and delete my cookies and play again if I really want to get the highest possible score. All right, I think with this demo, we're done. Lots of features to keep adding to this app. The thing I want the most now, I would say, is flair, like UX. A bit of confetti, a bit of nice animations. I think especially for games, more than just marketing sites. I think some visual flair, some whimsy gets you far. So that's something I will be focusing on. Maybe I will do it offline if you want to see something else, but the current plan is more of the CRUD functionality, the editor functionality, but also the animations, the confetti, and sharing with friends. That's the modern way to do SEO, is how shareable is your site, how nice does it look if people share it on WhatsApp or Discord or wherever, and how likely they are to click and actually play. That's huge. People aren't talking about that because most of the people in those fields, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna comment on, but maybe they don't have the most up-to-date information. Let's say that, to put it mildly. All right. So play the quiz. You can find all of this code and every private repo that we've ever done on the live stream, in addition to open source ones that we do from time to time, especially in earlier years. You can find them all with JOHNNIFY Premium. Prices will go up next month, but not if you already have a subscription, not if you already are on any of the two plans. And mostly that's because I want to reward the people that have been supporting for longer. They're going to be grandfathered in, as we say, to this better price. Personally, I've said a few times that using any one of these repos saves me at least a day of work or 2 days of work. At this point, because there are so many, I can always select like one and start from this, and it saves me minimum 1 day, maybe 2. And then, depending on the project, which we've talked rates before, to me, that could be like 500 euros, 1,000 euros, whatever, depending on how much I'm going to be paid on that. And allows me to over deliver. If you are going to start from any of those projects, maybe it's going to save you a different amount of money. But I would think that it's more than, 69 for the year. Depends on how much you're going to get. It depends on how quickly you'll navigate through the code base, because everyone has instructions, or the core starter ones do have instructions, and I'm also available in the Discord for any of your questions. But you're not going to fly through these unless you've watched all the live streams that we've done. If you have watched like at least one series, I think you should be able to get the vibes check pass on how you're supposed to work with them. But in any case, I do this because I do think it's tremendous value, and still I get some sign of validation that you do like this sort of content, and it may help you get better at the job, deliver projects faster, that sort of thing. Cool. So, pitch done, stream done. We've done a lot of things. I've told you the plan about Tuesday. Suggest if you want to see anything else. It's been a pleasure. Thanks to everyone for sharing your time with me, spending some alongside me, driving along or coding along, especially the people in the chat. It's been a pleasure, and thank you once again. Have a lovely weekend.